Welcome to Stories with Soul. Today's episode is a special one. It's actually a live episode. We threw a big party a few weeks ago and did a live episode in front of a real audience. It was our first time to do that. We just built our own podcast studio, and to celebrate, we threw a little party. And because we were celebrating the new podcast studio, I thought it'd be fun to have a panel of people who have built and leveraged personal brands and who have used podcasts as a part of how they have done that. So this is actually not just one person's story, but I sit down with Tony Green, with Sainty Nelsen, and Tiffany Blackmon to dive into how they have built their personal brands and how they have used media, storytelling, and podcasting to do that. It's a fun episode. It's a fun conversation. We do a little Q&A at the end. It's a little different than our normal format, and I hope you enjoy. So I have Tiffany Blackmon, I have Sainty Nelsen, and I have Mr. Tony Green. And I was gonna read your bios, but I decided not to do that. I kind of want to just kick it off and have you tell your story, who you are, what you do, why you're here. Give us that from your own lips, because y'all are all good at doing that, and then we'll dive into some questions. Tony, you're laughing.
Cigarette on hand. I was like, start at the very beginning. You go ahead, sissy.
Who wants to kick us off?
Wait, you want me to start?
Tony, I kind of want you to start.
Oh my gosh, okay. Well, the lady is first. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm Tony Green. And oh my gosh, I really just feel like my brand, which is basically Hello, I'm Tony Green, under an umbrella, encompasses so many things. But is really, I thought, why don't we make it into something and name it something, even though I picked a very obvious choice, that is basically how I like to live my life. How I live my life, meeting people, telling stories about them, telling great stories about food, promoting their brands, going to promote their charities and championing for those charities. And that's all what became something that was able to be presented to the world in different ways. So now you see me as a correspondent with NBC from time to time. And then we just finished this wonderful little film project, a short film project that's doing pretty wonderfully. And hopefully you'll see me this holiday season pop up in a few places at Santa Tony. So look forward to that. That's pretty much it.
And you also have a podcast.
And also the podcast, yes, which we should be coming back for season 5 with my dear friend Henry Abuto. Okay, we love him as well. And that is called Tony and Henry on the Same Page.
You want me to? Oh.
Sainty, you are
All
in
right,
the hot
gang.
seat.
Hi. I am Sainty Nelsen. I was born and raised here in Fort Worth and hadn't been back since 2007 and came back during COVID when my husband was doing 1883. He was good old Dennis that got the... So sorry if you haven't watched the show, he gets killed. But I was a musical theater girly, went to Ohio, then New York to do Broadway, and I was on a television show called Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll with Dennis Leary. And I remember he came up to me and he was like, your voice, pardon my language, am I allowed to cuss?
You know
me.
You can do it.
Oh my gosh, you can beat me out. But he was like, your voice is so fucking weird. You've got to do voiceovers. And I'm like, literally, it's like my first boss. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing voiceovers. And so that kind of fell into, thankfully, because of Dennis, fell into my lap and did Trolls and Boss Baby. And I'm currently on Gabby's Dollhouse and a Minion. And so voiceover was my thing. So when we moved to Texas, my son, we had Molly Morgan, and my son was deathly ill, and I was horribly depressed and just mad at the world. I was like, why? Like the entire world was during COVID. And then I had a sick child on top of it, and I just kind of thought he'd always be sick. And so in my mind, I was like, if he's not going to change, and if I'm going to live in the hospital, I need to change my life. And so I stopped drinking a year and just got really into like a big health kick. And I feel like I just came into my own and was like, I'm not just going to be Eric's wife and not just rely on everybody. And because of all the nurses and doctors and people in the Fort Worth community, I was like, it is my time to get back. Like, they did so much for me. So the moment I got my mental health like in check, and Mick's health, ironically, got in check. It's so weird kind of how that correlates. I feel like everything happened. And it was Jamie's podcast, actually, was the first time I said I got on anxiety medicine. And I feel like if were born and raised here, it's kind of like a faux pas, or what people say is being on anxiety, a faux pas, just like my faux pas. No, but I think that changed the game, because my mom got so many calls and was like, oh, that was so cool of Sainty to do. And I think my life kind of began there, and everything has fallen into place. I have a podcast called The Glamour and Grit with my husband, Eric, and it's so much freaking fun, and we are exhausting and so annoying and fun. I just have a Christmas stocking line out at Neiman Marcus that just launched, and it's the largest Christmas buy Neiman's has ever had. So it's so weird. I think my life just started, curating, because I got my mental health in check, and I think everything kind of fell into place. So there we go. Long story, not very short.
Tiffany, give us a little bit about your background and bio and what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us, because you are fabulous, and
she is such a better interviewer and podcaster.
Wife, and you are just such an iconic in the philanthropic world, in the business world, and thank you so much for having us tonight and allowing us to tell our stories. Tony and I have been friends for many years. Both of these people sitting to my right have been on my podcast. So they have been so sweet to be with me and support my brand. How I started, I am a chef. And by trade, I went to TCU, and I did the food world for 100 years, because I'm almost 60. I'm happy birthday 60 in January. So anyway, I'm the old one up here. You can add all the ages up here. So I was doing food, writing, television, radio for years and years for many different companies, branding different companies, and learning the intricacies of branding these large companies, Southern Living, the beef industry. And when 2020 hit, I was phasing into blogging and in content creating the influencer world. I'm not sure I like that word, but Paul Rogers, my former producer, said you should start a podcast. You should. And I'm like, what's a podcast? It's a radio show, right? Is what my dad called it. So I'm like, sure, let's go. So we started a podcast after doing the blogging. We brought it to life. Television, radio was my passion, and so I love being in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. My beautiful daughter is in the audience today, and she's my marketing manager, and she runs the show. I do not run the show. But phasing through being a chef, not in the restaurant world, let me make that clear, and television, radio, and publications is very different from what the people do, or everyone does in the food and beverage industry. But I'm trying to bring that to life. My podcast, my so-called fabulous podcast. Why did we come up with the name? Because I'm not fabulous. I'm so-called fabulous, but I'm not really fabulous, but I want to be fabulous. And everyone I bring on my show is amazing in their own right. Mm-hmm. They make a difference in the world. They want to change the world. They want to make it a better place, and we're trying to figure it out in a small little intricacies throughout our life. So that's what I'm doing. I absolutely love what I'm doing right now. Is it easy? No, not at 59. It's not. But I absolutely adore this, and I appreciate what you're doing, bringing us all here today.
Well, this is great. This is great. Tiffany, I want to come back. I want to put you in the hot seat again, even though you just were telling us your story.
Put my champagne down.
I know.
I was watching it. I was like, is that going to stay in her lap? I think, so I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, work with a lot of small business owners, and I feel like most people see the value in content. They see the value in building a brand. Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6F Storytelling, where we help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow through the power of storytelling. If you're stuck watching competitors get all the attention, or you're tired of wasting money on random marketing tactics that don't work, you're not alone. As an entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses, I know firsthand how frustrating it can be to have a great product or have a great service, but struggle to get the attention you deserve. Because here's the truth. Being good at what you do isn't enough anymore. You need a way to stand out and connect with your ideal customers. That's why we created the Storytelling Pathway, a proven framework for story-driven marketing that turns solid businesses into brands people can't stop talking about. So whether you're just starting out or if you're ready to scale, we can help you craft and share your unique story in a way that attracts the right customers and drives real growth. So if you're ready to stand out, visit 6avstorytelling.com today. I would love to chat with you. But it feels daunting and overwhelming. And so I wanted, I think what I love about you being 59 is like, it's never like too late to start something or too late to reinvent yourself. But there was a point in each of you, and I as a casual observer witnessed it. Tony, I remember when you like launched this night talk show, but there was a point where you said, I'm going to do something and I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to do the work and I'm going to invest the time, energy, money, resource. And that's like taking that step is kind of scary and kind of overwhelming. And it's like, what are people going to think? Is anybody going to listen? Is anybody going to care? But I would love for you, like you said you started it in COVID. But can each of y'all just talk a little bit about like when you were like, I'm going to do this, and kind of what you was going through in your head during that season, like the fears or the imposter syndrome, or what that leap of faith of I'm going to put myself out there and intentionally create content and invest my time, energy, money into doing this thing.
So I'm going to go back several years. As a chef, you're expected to, especially as a cookbook writer, you're expected to have an Instagram and have photos of what you're doing. And I didn't. I was a queen of Facebook, let me tell you. I was the queen of Facebook, but I didn't have it. And I said when my daughter, which was my main investment in my life, there's nothing, where's Lydia? There's nothing like being a mother and a father. It's the number one job in your life. But everyone's like, where's your Instagram? Where's your photos? And I said, when my daughter graduates high school, I'm going to start an Instagram. But I'm not going to do an Instagram. It's going to be a freaking business, and it is. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's going to be a business. We're not just messing around telling people what we're having for dinner. So we started that, and I started
Which means
that.
you went from nothing.
Doing nothing.
From zero Instagram.
No, zero, and we just started 100%. And my daughter and I were talking about this today. We went full throttle. It was a full-time job. And then when COVID, we started the podcast in January, COVID, February, March, who's going to be on my show? Myself, you know what I mean? It's my own show. But we had to switch. I had no television. I had no public, Sainty, we've talked about this. We had no jobs. I mean, you could not go in public. You couldn't go on television. You couldn't go on radio. So you had to switch. So mine was just jump in and let's go. So starting the podcast was before, but then we really accelerated once COVID hit. And you're scared. You're like, who's listening? Right. Everybody's listening. And what I regret is I didn't realize that we had so many ears and there's so many hearts wanting to hear. So, I lost a little bit during that phase, but it's just that, at the time, it was just, you just jump right in. So my business has gone from me having a full-time job in the industry to having a full-time job for myself.
That's amazing, sister. Go team, go.
It seems fabulous, right?
Yeah, so-called, yeah. And then you see our credit card statements, and you're like, not so fabulous anymore. Eric and I were not in the public eye, but we were more on like the acting end. And I remember, I will say, during 1883, that's when Mick was super sick. And it was Eric's best time of his life, and it was my worst time of my life. And I just remember saying, this is such bullshit. Like, we are so fake. Like, this is so fake what the world is seeing right now. And it just seemed not fair to me and fair to those moms out there or parents out there that are struggling. It just seemed not reality. And I just remember telling Eric, I was like, we need to share this. It's only fair if we share this. And we are blessed in a sense where if we do share it and get backlash, we can get back up and it's fine, I think. And so I just remember we did our first podcast kind of going in, and we were flying back from New York, and we had done the 3 in a row. And I started crying. I was like, Eric, are we going to do this? Because I do not want to do it halfway. I want to be so honest. I want to, and we have to, and especially Eric being an actor, I was like, it's just, we have to go full force, and you have to be honest about everything in our lives. If it's just the only way to be authentic, and if we're not going to be authentic, I don't want to do it. And I think I think that allowed people to view us as normal people, and it was just the best thing ever. But it was so crazy because we did have that moment just on the airplane being like, if we're going to do this, we have to go all the way, especially because we were so late to the podcast game too. I always said I felt like I was like starting the Facebook. It just seemed like I was so late in the game that if we were going to do it, we had to do it right and do it big. Thanks to 6th Avenue Stories, who did all of our marketing. So here we are.
Well, that was lovely.
Thanks, babe.
For me, oh my gosh, I got started because of I had a series, random crazy series of yeses. Like someone asked me, hey Tony, we love you and we'd love for you to you should host a talk show inside of my bar. And that was Eddie Vanston, who we still love him, and Shipping and Receiving, if you don't know. And and then from that, we went to the drawing board and kind of drew up this crazy idea of getting this desk and our CNC creator friends and our artist friends painting it, and everybody was helping us put it together. And then I'm a host, and then I'm getting this suit, and we get this little great deal at this store that we still love. And then we started to say, okay, now let's start asking other people about it that we want to have on the show. So we asked Rambo, had a pretty good relationship with her, so we thought that was an easy yes. That was good. Then I asked, I'm like, who do we want to sit her next to? So I have my friend Frida Monet was a drag queen. Then we start playing with this idea of sitting people together that would not normally be in the same space at the same time. And that grew the idea. And then we said, let's ask Nancy Lamb. Nancy Lamb said yes. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I think we can do this. Okay, I think we can pull it off. And that created a series of yeses for me that culminated in the relationship with NBC that we try to keep a handle on to this day, and then creating the podcast with Henry, which was also just another yes moment. We were on a Sunday afternoon talking for 4 hours like we always do, and then we'd get to the end of our conversation and always say, I wish we recorded that. And so we finally did. And now we have we have listeners. We have one of our gays is in London, and so he listens, but it's but now there's 40 listeners in London. It's so crazy, and it just feels like those little things that are that culminate in our success. So that's basically how we did it.
Love it. Can you talk a little bit about just the value of authenticity? Coupled with, I think part of doing this is you got to show up. You got to create content, which is kind of a job. I got to do the work and schedule the photos or the videos, or it can be cumbersome and time consuming. But can you talk about balancing creating and then being authentic? Because I think part of the success of each of the three of you is you're kind of unapologetically you. You are you don't try to be anybody else. You don't pretend you're like, I'm a little weird, I'm different, I'm my own thing. And I think that's kind of why people react to it. But so one, how do you manage that? Was that hard doing that? How do you reconcile that with also like, it's a job, I got to show up, I got to think of things, there's a little bit of strategy there, but you also want it to be very real and authentic. So I don't know if anybody wants to take a stab at that.
I'll try. My biggest thing, though, if I'm not being authentically myself, then I will always second guess if something didn't go right or wrong. Because then I'm like, oh, if I would have said this. But if I'm myself, I'm like, well, they just didn't like me. Yeah. Like, it's just, it is what it is. And so it is. I think that's the biggest, because I catch myself, especially once you start getting brand management and things like that, is like, my biggest thing is, like with the Mackenzie's Childs, I've had that for years. I think keeping to your brand and what you are as a person, I think people relate to that. I mean, you start to see any of those influencers when they start doing random deals, you're like, you're just doing that for a paycheck, which is amazing, and you understand why. But I think that's why we're definitely seeing a change in the Instagram culture. Is like with my agency, they said their micro influencers make more money now than their mega people, because I think people trust, and you see behind the BS, and you realize and understand it's their job. But I can't, like, the more I do without my makeup, or the more I like am crying or snotty, or the more hits I get, because it allows people to be like, okay, we're all the same, we're all trying our best. If that goes a little.
That's good.
I do have to say that for the majority of my young adult life, I hid a secret. And I hid it for a very long time. And when I first did the podcast and revealed that I had a first marriage that went very south, and the reasons why, and I was so embarrassed. And I had people texting me going, I had no idea, I've been your friends all these years and you never said this anything, because I was afraid of two things. Brene Brown says it well: shame and guilt. They're the worst. And so, coming true with what I shared, I had hundreds of women that said, I feel normal. And if I can make someone feel normal through my podcast, I give menopausal symptoms all the time. We won't go into that here at Jamie's place, but I give it all the time. I know you have them too, girl, but I mean... But until you really share, like Sainty was saying, something that everyone's dealing with, and that was my aha moment of going, I've hid this and dealt with shame and guilt, and it's my brand now, is coming forward and sharing and letting people know that you're normal. We all, not all of us, but we may have not had a great childhood, or we may not have had a great marriage, or we may have a breakup. To share that, and for me, that's what podcasting is really sharing and reaching you and going, man, she's not famous, she's not this, but she's just a normal gal like me. So authenticity has just turned into my brand pretty quickly when I became honest with myself.
I love that. Tony, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I concur with what the ladies were saying. And I would add, one of the biggest things that helped me is balance. Sometimes I really had to take some time away from like being everything in front of social media. And that's why, so I could do it. It's so I could do it better. Whenever I did do it, I needed that time off. So I think just like with anything that we really invest in, you have to find that balance, like we do with work and life. So that's my addition.
No, and I agree too. Like, my hardest thing, especially Eric and I do a live podcast every Friday, is separating that, like, because my friend will tell me a story and it's like, oh my God, that story's so good, I got to tell it on the podcast. That's been the hardest part for me, is like separating that life. And like, I've even said to my friends too, like, I promise this is not going to go on our podcast. Like, I swear, because it is so hard. Those moments, you're like, I want to share it. Like, I remember our neighbor is 17 and she babysits my kids. And she told her mom to tell me that please stop talking about my own children because my kids are perfect. that I'm talking negatively. And I'm like, I'm not talking about my kids negatively. I'm talking about me as a parent and the stuff I'm going to. But I love she took it so personally that I was talking like about her babies in a sense. So I feel like that's the biggest balance too, is separating, because it is all about authenticity, but then saving. That's why Eric and I are more about sharing, throwing each other under the bus and like our things instead of like our friends, because it is so hard not to share everything, because gosh, it could be fun. Oh, it'd be so good. So good.
Hey, I'm interrupting this episode because I want to share something with you that I'm really excited about. One of my biggest missions in life is to make entrepreneurship easier than it was for me. After spending over a decade building multiple businesses, I've learned some hard lessons, often the expensive way. And here's the thing, I see so many talented entrepreneurs struggling with the exact same challenges that I faced. They've got great products, they've got great services, but they're stuck trying to figure out how to stand out and how to grow. They're wasting time and money on random marketing tactics, they're watching competitors get all the attention, and they're feeling overwhelmed about what to focus on next. That's exactly why my team and I just created 2 incredible free resources that I genuinely wish I had when I was starting out. The first is our storytelling marketing assessment. In just 5 minutes, it'll show you exactly where your marketing stands today and give you a clear roadmap of what to work on next. No more guessing, no more wasting time on strategies that don't work. And the second is our complete storytelling pathway framework. This is the exact system that we've used to help hundreds of businesses grow through the power of story. This isn't just a theory, it's a practical, proven framework that shows you step by step how to turn your business into a brand people can't stop talking about. I'm giving both of these away completely for free because I truly believe that when local businesses thrive, our whole community thrives. This isn't about making a quick buck. It's about sharing what works and helping other entrepreneurs succeed. You can get both resources right now at 6thAvestorytelling.com/free. I promise you these are absolute game changers. They're going to help you get clear on exactly what you need to do to grow your business and give you the roadmap to make it happen. Don't miss out on these. Head over to 6thAvestorytelling.com/free and grab them now. All right, back to our conversation.
Okay, I want to pivot a little bit and talk just like practical. How do you do this? Because again, it's like the same with the decision to, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to do this. I have a vision. I'm going to go for it. There's also, it's a lot, there's work to it. You got to show up. It doesn't just happen. Can you talk just like, what is a typical week or month, or like what does your content creation process look like? Can you give me some granular, like I do photos or captions or I make posts, this like whatever, like all of y'all are content creators. Your brand is built on creating content. How do you do that, and what does that look like logistically?
Woo. Okay, so we plan because we are content creators and we have a blog. Tuesday is podcast release day on the blog. Wednesday is recipe Wednesday, so it's a recipe because that's I still have those people. Thursday is fashion and lifestyle. Friday and Monday are paid content, and then hopefully others paid, but then Saturday and Sunday are flex days. We have months planned out. It doesn't always work, but for example, we are looking at Valentine's Day now because...
You're already making content for Valentine's Day.
Well, it's already hitting the stores. I mean, everyone knows it's hitting the stores. So we've already got to... So the gift guides are out. Gift guides are planned through Christmas. So that's our... That's how we monetize our engine, is gift guides and selling and monetizing and like to know. And as laborious as it is in Amazon, we try really hard to give. We don't just and we get packages in the mail all the time. And it's like, if we don't like it, we don't post it if they're not paying us. But we don't take every brand deal. But content creation for this has to be planned out so far in advance. 2 weeks, it's ready. It's in the barrel going down. It's already planned. So I think that's how ours is a little bit different. Podcasts, we are recording the last one. I was telling y'all earlier, we try to batch 4 or 5 a day, and we have 17 to 20 a season. So we try to batch because financial reasons. I mean, it's a financial.
Just to clarify, she's recording 5 episodes in one day. It's crazy to me.
But I mean, it just, we finally figured out, and it takes a minute. It's taken me 5 years to figure out that is the formula for my brand. Please don't be late if you're coming to my podcast for an hour. But that's the formula that works for us. But yes, do I lose a voice at the end of the day? But I feel at the end I'm so energized, and I want to go out and have drinks, and everyone goes. But that's how we plant it. So our we just don't have the podcast. We have to monetize the podcast because it's expensive. I mean, it is expensive for us because we're doing it in studio, and but it's content planned out for quite a long time. We have our guests planned the entire season, and it's very. And I'm looking around this room because I'm seeing guests. I'm going to attack you at the end of the night.
But to summarize, is your calendar is very intentional and very full. And I'm sure you have some days where you're like sitting down writing in front of your computer all day.
Yes.
And some days we're like drawing on the whiteboard. Here's what we're going to do. And some days we're like getting the makeup on and you're doing.
Yes. And, that's my job. But what's interesting is we started this, Bonnie Smith is in the audience, beautiful Shop with Bonnie, and she has been with my brand for 5 years now. And she and I have talked about it. We are 7-Eleven. We're 365. 24 hours a day. It really is, because I will go to the toilet in the middle of the night and somebody wants to know about breast implant illness. I'm telling about them at 3 a.m. So, because I love my people, but what we decided to do is 7 days a week is too much. So I was like, okay, I need to give my daughter or somebody just 6 days a week we work, just 6 days. And then I'm like, we finally figured it out. It took us 5 years, but it figured it out of planning content ahead. And then Monday, sometimes we have to work weekends, but we're getting better about that, So, but it's a full-time job. It really is. It's not part-time at all.
Mm-mm. Lord, I'm a shit show. You've got it together. Oh my God. I literally have content I have to do on the way home. I'm doing it like I am a full shit show. I do mine on the daily and kind of whatever I'm feeling. And if I have to go number 2, I get a little more content done than I normally do.
You're doing it all on the fly?
On the fly. Swear to goodness, y'all. I literally did my first content. If you follow me on Instagram at Sainty Nelsen, I'll love your content. God, I am a literal shit show. This is why it's people's jobs and not my job. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and my sweet best friends.
I have a 25-year-old.
Oh, can't wait. My sweet best friends, Katie McFarlane, Becca Pollock, they were like, so you have full-time help? And I'm like, no. Should I was like, I have TCU babysitters. That is like what I have. It is me. And most of the time, as Reba would say, a single mom who works 2 jobs, because Eric is always gone. So it is me and me most of the time. So my sweet children, that's the part I'm balancing. I try to every night, and they still sleep in bed with me, which I know is so bad. And I sit in bed and I do the content, and my sweet Neve Marcus, like the head of it, they called me. They're like, will you give this to your social media team? And I was like, oh, they already have it. It's me. So literally, but I think this is all just happening for me. So I'm kind of in that I haven't been doing this years. It's all kind of happened. I'm realizing yesterday I took, we did the podcast at 8 a.m. and then I took the day off the rest of the day, and I was with my kids all day, and my mom called me and she's like, how are things? And I was like, I'm not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. They are saints, stay-at-home moms. They deserve it. Like, my brain, if you know me, goes way too fast all the time. So I think it's my Adderall, it's my ADHD medicine is content. Like, I'm just kind of always going. Like, I have no consistency. Just kind of wherever I am, I just kind of share. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, sorry. But yes, like that, it really is. I'm kind of like whatever I'm feeling that day is how my gift guides go. And if I see like Mackenzie's Child's doing a sale, I'm like, ooh, LTK, here I come. And I do a quick gift guide. And
Do you block off time at all?
no.
You're not like between 2 and 4, I'm getting on my phone.
No, it's all day. Like, and all night. And
That blows
every
my
morning and in the car. And I'll be doing it all night tonight. And we have our, podcast every Monday, every Friday. So all week.
I love it.
But I'm playing catch up. So I think that's the difference. Is I feel like I was so late to the game that I'm playing so much catch up now that I always feel like I'm always wish sometimes I would have found myself at 25 instead of 35. But I'm so grateful I found myself at 35. But I always tell Eric, I'm like, God, what I could have done if this was like myself at 25. Yeah. But I'm grateful because it's me now.
But Sainty, I couldn't have done this when Kennedy was 3 and 5. I mean, I couldn't have done this. So let's give yourself some grace.
Give her some flowers for that, right?
Mama, being a parent is being a parent, and I mean, so give
sweet.
yourself grace. And you do have a full-time job, so you know what I mean. So.
Oh my gosh! So ours with the podcast, so we try to do 2. We try to do 2 at a time. Try to do 2 at a time. And so we're doing 1 at a time. We're like, oh my gosh! It was like we could break this up. You know, we had to get creative. But like I said, it's always inconvenient. And then things come from me. The schedule is just so weird for me. And so you know, whenever I'm pushing out content, it's usually for something that's coming up, or. You know, I could give you a little bit of something, but I'm not always active on the stories. I love a good story time. And I'll send you the best one. So y'all got to follow me if y'all done already, because my story is good. Oh my gosh. So with that creation, I do kind of like block away a time for it, and then I usually end up doing whatever I needed to record, and then I basically go to the wine bar, chat room, or Henry's house, and then they like, what are you doing? Why are you like doing? I'm like, I'm working. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm editing. I'm like, I promise. I'm like, so that's why like the post takes a while for me to get together, and then I'm basically crazy whenever I start editing. And I'm like silent and not active, and they're like, "What is this guy doing over there?" So that's how we crank it out. And then from time to time, I definitely have help. And with the movie stuff, I certainly have help, and they also like have a handler for me that will get me places. And so that's the plus side. I love having a handler sometimes. But that's how I do it.
Okay, I want to ask one more question, and then we'll take a few questions from the audience. If you were to give advice to maybe your younger self, or just someone aspirationally who's like, I want to build a brand, I want to build a platform, I want to do what you guys are doing, what advice would that be?
Ooh, I love that question. I think it would be, at least for me, is find yourself at that time. So yourself, your own personal self, is going to change 100,000 times, and just be okay with it. And you will be so poor sometimes, and so rich sometimes, and so sad sometimes, and so happy sometimes. And it's okay. Like, I remember on the podcast, I cried, and I was like, it's the first time in my life I was content. I didn't know contentment existed. So yeah, that would be like my little saying.
I like that one. I would have to like think about it. I think I would say first, ask yourself what you're good at, and then, or if you already know, like do it faster. I wish I would have do keep doing it. Keep doing that. Invest in that part of yourself, and really like participate in it, because sometimes like there's something that gets in your head that's like that hesitates you, that says don't start this yet. Don't have this great idea. Maybe that idea I didn't participate in, but that was a great idea. And now I've had a lot of them, and then people get to see them too. But that's only because I said yes to myself, you know?
Did it take you a while to get to that point? Like,
I think so, yeah. But I think I saw what people were seeing in me. I was like, you know, people kept saying to me the same thing, what they were seeing in me. This great thing, you know, something in me, a charisma, a uniqueness, a nerve, a talent, okay? Okay. And so yeah, and then I started saying that to myself. So yeah, it took long enough, you know.
Tiffany?
I wish that the younger Tiffany would have been confident enough to do what I'm doing today. I wish, and I see all these beautiful faces of men and women in this group, and we are in a world, whether we want to believe it or not, of support. Tony Green, 5 years, has been my friend and has said yes to everything I've ever asked him to do. Sainty has said yes to everything I've ever asked her to do. People in this audience. But I wish that we were in a world 40 years ago where we were in a group like this, Jamie Ice, and supporting each other, small businesses. I didn't know you could work for a small business. I didn't know you could be a small business. I just thought I worked for Southern Living or a bank or someone. But I didn't realize that you could make a living doing what we're doing now. And I see a lot of small business owners in this group today. And I wish the younger me would have had the confidence to go, no, I'm going to do this myself. I'm not going to work for anyone else. I'm going to work for myself. And it's been the best experience of my life.
That's awesome.
Can I say something really quick?
Come on.
And it's like my biggest passion in life, and it's so annoying, but I swear to you, it's going to be so cliche. But giving back is like, it sounds so stupid, y'all, but I can't stand, especially in the world of social media, people complain 24/7, and they have every right. It's their right to. But my philosophy, unless you're on the ground, get your hands dirty and helping the world, then you can have a right to complain because you're doing something about it. And I think if you're out there and giving back, and it all comes back in spades, and even more so, and you get a better understanding of the world. And I don't know, it's just becoming, I drive Eric crazy because he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, I'm going on a Zoom to help this one girl. Did you get this one? And he's like, you don't have time to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, of course I do. I'm like, she is changing the world. And if I can help a young girl help change the world, like, how cool is that? Like, and one day that's going to be my daughter. So it sounds so silly and so cliche, but I swear to goodness, it comes back even better in your heart. So stupid, but it really does. It is like, and y'all see it firsthand. I feel like Melissa Ice is one of the most unbelievable humans she's one of the biggest people that inspired me in life. And I think it comes back so much more in life, and you get to a better understanding the world, because I think if we're in this room, we all come from a place of privilege. And I think how blessed we are so get back.
Honestly, having philanthropy on my podcast has been the biggest eye-opening. I had foster homes, fostering National Angels on a few weeks ago, and I'm embarrassed what I don't know what's going on out there. You know what I mean? I'm embarrassed to know, and what I've done and what's come across our desk in 5 years with philanthropy has been, and like Sainty's saying, giving back. And that's what my way of giving back too is these philanthropies that just need y'all to hear that we need people to adopt dogs, and we need to adopt children, and to change the world. You know, am I going to get rich on changing the world? No, but that's not my job at all. But to change the world and get a voice. So I honestly think that, and that's you're the same. You work with philanthropies all the time.
Like, people don't know how many. You know, sometimes
give back.
We're just like, there's more. And that's exactly the answer. But they find you because they see that thing. They see that thing. This thing that we're doing, that they need our help. They need our help telling their story, telling more people about their story, because they don't always have in us. And so that's why I'm such a yes person. Whenever anyone asks, like they always, I have time for that, for sure, some way. I'll work it out.
I love it. And I think that's like one of the benefits of building a platform is you get to do stuff like that. So this is live, which is one of the fun things about live. It's a room for people. Does anybody have any questions? Shoot. What is the most rewarding part about what you do? Yeah, we're kind of just talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, the giving back is nice, but I got some great boots from time to time. I get some shoes. Okay, it's a little. I got a Dickies set, and I'm like pretty happy. But relationships are nice. But the giving back, yes.
It's the same. I think when you get like a discount code to something, you're like, okay, let's go. I think it sounds so silly, but I'll never forget when I got like one click on LTK and I was like, I am rich. Like I have made it, and it's like 0.2 cents. No, it sounds super, and that's part of, but I do a children's show for Cook Children's in-house. And they are needing, and I didn't know this a lot of time too, the closet where kids that have been physically abused and things like that. And Becca Pollock is my very best friend of Hill House, and she didn't know that. And to like give clothes, like those kind of connections, like to be able to say like, oh, that's one of my best friends, and she had no idea, and she would love to do that, is the most rewarding thing in like the entire world. I mean, there's like, and it sounds like we said it too, is all given, but like that is the coolest, like those kind of connections when you can help someone out like that. There is nothing, not a better feeling in the entire world.
I, in 2023, realized I had breast implant illness and had my implants out, and I decided the night before surgery, on highly medicated, to go on my social platform and to share with the whole entire universe that I was having my implants out, and could anyone please tell me what was going on and what was about to happen. And thousands, my platform grew because these fabulous women across the world were messaging me the night before my surgery, and the women crying out for help now that were fighting Big Pharma and changing women and changing their thought process. And I pray someday I can start a nonprofit for that, but women that need help, that no one is listening.
I love it. And I think part of that is just, again, authenticity. Just like, instead of like, I'm thinking of this really strategic content, just saying, here's what's going on. Inviting people into your story is what resonates the most. Questions? Frank, Mia? Was there a time you wanted to call it quits, or a tough time? Was there a time you're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Short answer is yes. I'm like, but the long answer is no, because you just keep going. I think, like I said, for me, it's like I am the brand. I am. So it's just me no matter what. So I know, but it's just showing up. But yes, yes. I mean, I can't not say yes to that question. I don't think there's any one specific. I think there's been multiple, but I just keep coming. I keep showing up. It's like clocking in.
Yeah. And I think so much of it's it's me. So it's like, I can't quit me. God, I wish I could sometimes. I think the times, especially when you first start getting like negative comments, that I remember, I'm so sensitive. And I'm gonna get negative comments. I'm a polarizing personality. But in your own mind, you don't think you are. So when you start, you're like, oh, like it just, or you're like, oh my God, you don't know me. You don't know what I do. You don't. So I think that's some of the times where I've had to, any negative comment is always kind of good. It means you're growing. But that kind of always, it took me a moment to kind of learn how to.
People can have their opinions, you know.
Ooh, and they do.
They share.
But they shouldn't. We're so nice. No, but it is that's an interesting, yeah. It hurts when they do that sometimes.
The answer is absolutely. I mean, more times than often that you say, okay, I'm done. But I really try not to vocalize that too much. I do tell my husband, and he says, Tiffy, block and tackle, baby, you got this. And so I do have a cheerleader and a husband. I do. But it is. And so what's the biggest challenge for us is out of our hands. Anyone in this room is meta. Could shut us down. I have been told. I went to you asked a question about where could I put my money. It would have been gone to conferences and to talking to people like this that will open up, because a lot of people will not share their secrets or their success and failures. But going to a conference has been just giving us help and hope of like, okay, there is help on Amazon. We're going to make it. But yes.
Like a content creator conference, or like what are you talking about?
We went to the midlife influencer conference. I'm not sure anybody in this room would go there, but we went there, and just people willing to share their, just do this. And I'm like, wait, I learned more in 3 days than I had in 5 years. 3 days. And every person I met wanted to quit. They wanted to quit. Like, are we making a difference? Are y'all hearing me? Are you listening? Do you hear the daily deal or whatever? But the answer is absolutely. And anyone that tells you that they didn't think that is absolutely farce. So.
All right, let's do one more question. Oh wait, or maybe two. We'll do two. Let's go to the back first. You, yes. So for the recording, I want to try to repeat that. So just in the early stages of sort of changing your career or getting started, dealing with the feelings of feeling cringe or delulu. Did I say that right? And even kind of, the imposter syndrome that comes from that. Like, is this cheesy? Is this obnoxious? Is this narcissistic? Is it weird?
I feel like you gotta lean into it, sister. I am the definition of cringe. I am the definition of delulu. I'm the definition of back in the day of basic bitch. And you just my philosophy, it sounds so silly. If I say it first, then you can't say it about me because I already said it. So like, it sounds really silly, but I'm like, I know, guys, this is super annoying. Or like, I just feel like that makes people, because if they're making fun of you, like, then you just look silly, like that person making fun of you, because you already said it. Right. Like, the joke's on them. Like, I made the joke first. So whenever I do feel like those moments where I'm like, oh my God, like I want to die. This is so cringy. I think, and if you follow my husband on Instagram, you probably have seen him shirtless more than I have. Because that man does the 5:30 a.m. running shirtless.
Yeah, his abs are crazy.
They're phenomenal. But I always tell Eric, like, he gets in trouble with our agents, and I'm like, Eric, like, that is delulu. I'm like, you don't do that. Like, one, you're married, like, and two, like, point it out to people. Like, we get it. Like, it's so, I think that people don't, like, authentically, because I'm like, babe, like, you're a mid-30s, and, like, you have your shirt off, and I'm like, you're married forever. So I think if, like, the more you, like, just lean in, I think the less you'll care, because the joke's on them. Like, you hit it first. At least that's my philosophy. Because I'm a no one. Like, I always say that to my agents, I'm a no one, but I'm my own no one. And hopefully I'm somebody else's no one. Mm-hmm. And we're no ones together. And I think that helps people have more fun. You go at it, sister. I'm always like, who cares? Yeah. I've gotten the philosophy of who cares. And it could shut down tomorrow. So you might as well have fun being you.
Well, I think, just like it's very cringe, very delulu. It's also so meta that we just explain cringe and delulu to Tiffany.
What these words you are saying?
I was like, she was like, what were those words? Oh my gosh. But yeah, you just, you really you really just keep at it. If it is cringe, if it is delulu, then that means you're doing something right. I think, just do it. I mean, I crack myself up all the time, and then I see it in my head, something that's really funny, and then whenever I do it and I like it, I'm like, that's good. So I'm like my own. I amp myself up, for whatever it is.
If I'm understanding correctly this question, there's a generational gap here. I'm gonna pass on that one.
I would just say, like, if you want ordinary results, do ordinary things. If you want extraordinary results, do extraordinary things. And like the people, like I was talking about Matthew McConaughey earlier. He's so weird and wild, but I love him. It's like we're drawn to people who are interesting and do their own thing. And so I think that's true with business. I think it's like you have to do unordinary things. And I pulled up a quote. My daughter's name is Roosevelt. We call her Rosie. But we named her. Has anybody heard this? This is I'm getting cheesy on us, but this is "The Man in the Arena" is one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. By Theodore Roosevelt. And it's why we named her Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at best knows in the end the triumphs of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be without the cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. But there's people on the sidelines who are judging and criticizing and throwing rocks and writing mean comments, but the credit belongs to the man in the arena who's failing and putting themselves out there. So I would just say you gotta just do it. And people like weird, and you gotta put yourself out there. And the self-talk is a big part of it, Andrew, we have one more question. The question is, if you had the opportunity to just completely reset and do it all again and do something totally different, but start with a podcast, and doing something totally different, what would it be?
What do you call it? What do you say? I mean, I can't even remember what they're called. Well, bar stools, first of all, I would do something sports related. But what is it when you take naked pictures of yourself?
The boudoir stuff?
What do you call it?
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. That's the only thing I know how to do. But no one right now wants to
crush
look
at
at
OnlyFans.
Oh my gosh, she would kill it.
I mean, I don't.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, that's the only thing I
Yes.
know. That's everyone's killing it there, right? But no one wants to see this shit. I mean, right? That's the only thing I know.
Girl,
to
go
do.
ahead and lock in a screen name just in case. Okay.
So that's my advice.
I was so proud of you. I was like, Tiff has been PG all night and so sophisticated and nailing it, and then we come out with OnlyFans.
I mean, I see
Okay.
everyone doing it. They're just killing it.
Let's
I mean,
go. I was gonna say a barista, so I'm very. I think I would be. I have this sweet Starbucks worker that I have every single time, and they, them, and I just am obsessed with them and like the way that they have expressed themselves. And I'm always thinking I'm addicted. If you follow me, like nobody follows me, but if you follow me at Sainty Nelsen again, but I think I would be really great at that job. Like I love talking to people. I love my coffee. I just think I would like really crush it as that, and I'm like really good at like the appliance.
You'd be good.
I really think like that.
Appliance, the
Yes.
espresso machine.
And I'm like really good with people and like understanding people, and I really like who they usually hire. I just think it's great people. I don't know. I just think I would crush it as a barista. Like famous probably for it.
well, that's a switch.
I go back again to what I want to be.
Yeah, then you did. Mine, which I've done, but like I would like go far with it, which is doing window styling. I love that part. You're also like, because you're by yourself enough, like, which I like, and then
Oh, like Macy's window display.
Oh yeah, I love those.
I was thinking.
They need you. They need you.
Oh my gosh, and I'm like, oh my god, I judge them so harshly every year. Yeah, I give good with window critiques, but yeah,
They're
I did
hiring
that for a
part-time
while.
down at Macy's.
They might need me. I'll look into it. But yeah, I think I'd go far with that, and then maybe be on parade circuit or something, but yeah, and then I'd have a cute pink gay bar.
Pink Pony Club.
That was a great question. All right, guys. Say what? Oh, my answer? That's a good
You
question.
need to be like a preacher. That's what Eric always calls you. You're like the ultimate. You're like, hi,
preacher?
Jamie, how are you? And he's like, good. And today, what? Like, you're so good at words. Like, is it so true? It's like I listened to after Stock Air Supply. I was in bed with my husband when he was listening to your, I think it was a voice memo or a video. I didn't know what it was, but I was listening and I was like, he's the most thoughtful, kind, like the way you use your words. You're really good at this storytelling thing. Sorry to answer your question, but I just think you are the most unbelievable. The way you use your words, I've never in my life experienced somebody that does that as amazing as you.
Oh, well.
I would follow.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Career shift.
Yeah. For me, I don't know. I always wanted to like live on an island and hunt treasure. I'm really good at finding things, and if I could do it all over again, and I would be a treasure hunter. And with that, this was a blast, guys. Thank you so much. This was a very, very, very fun conversation. Appreciate you guys listening and being here. Lots of wisdom here. So thank you guys. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. Appreciate you listening. If you enjoy what you heard, if you enjoy these episodes, please subscribe and like and share wherever you listen to podcasts. When you do that, it goes a long way and helps us continue to produce great new content. This episode is brought to you by 6Av Storytelling, where we help businesses grow their brands through the power of storytelling. If you're an entrepreneur who is interested in learning more about that, please visit 6avstorytelling.com today.